3 seconds earlier, I still believed this dinner might end quietly. The restaurant smelled like butter, garlic, and expensive wine. One of those places where the chairs are too heavy to move easily and the waiters glide instead of walk. Soft jazz hummed in the background. Crystal glasses caught the light like they were part of the decor. I remember the weight of the fork in my hand. Silver, perfectly balanced. I remember thinking, just get through this. Smile. Nod. Leave early. Then she stood up. I want everyone to meet someone special. Her voice cut through the room. Clear. Confident. Practiced. My ex-wife Laura rested her manicured hand on the shoulder of the man beside her. A man in a tailored navy suit, posture straight, chin slightly lifted. The kind of man who practiced smiling in mirrors. This is Daniel, she said. My boyfriend. The word boyfriend landed like a slap. A few people clapped. Someone laughed softly. Chairs shifted. Eyes turned, then lingered on me. I felt them measuring my reaction. Don't react, I told myself. Not yet. Daniel extended his hand across the table. Nice to finally meet you, he said. That's when Laura smiled at me. Not kindly, not nervously. It was a smile sharpened into a weapon. He works at Haraway Systems, she added casually. Senior Operations Manager. Haraway Systems. I didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't look away. Inside, something cold and deliberate clicked into place. You have no idea, I thought. None at all. My name is Ethan Cole. I was 34 years old at the time. Most people thought I was forgettable, quiet, unassuming, the kind of man who listened more than he spoke. At dinners like this, I was usually seated near the edge, politely included, easily ignored. I wore simple suits, drove a modest car, never talked about work unless asked. Laura used to joke about it. You disappear in rooms, she once said, laughing. It's almost a talent. What she really meant was you don't impress people. 6 months earlier, she'd decided that was enough. Around the table sat her parents, her sister, 2 couples from her social circle, and one of her father's business partners. Old money energy, loud confidence, casual cruelty masked as humor. Her mother dabbed her lips with a napkin. Well, she said, eyeing Daniel. He's certainly an upgrade. A few chuckles. I felt heat rise to my ears. I kept my posture relaxed. Don't give them anything. Daniel smiled, squeezing Lara's waist. I've heard a lot about you, he said to me. Mostly how things didn't work out. There it was. The public framing. The narrative control. Lara tilted her head. We just grew apart, she said lightly. Some people have ambition. Some people don't. Her sister smirked into her wine. I stared at my plate. A thin line of sauce bled into the white porcelain like something wounded. This is intentional, I thought. She planned this. 6 seconds earlier, I'd been deciding whether to order dessert. Now my heart beat slow, heavy, controlled. The waiter returned, oblivious. Another bottle? Yes, Lara's father said. Let's celebrate. Celebrate. Daniel leaned closer to me, voice low enough to feel intimate. You know, he said, Lara deserves someone who can keep up with her lifestyle. I met his eyes for the first time. Brown, confident, empty. I'm doing my best, I replied simply. That earned a laugh. A real one. From the table. God, it was perfectly choreographed. If you're enjoying this story so far, I thought distantly, remember, humiliation is never accidental. Wine was poured. Lara lifted her glass. To new beginnings. They all raised theirs. I didn't. Her eyes flicked to my untouched glass. Oh, don't be dramatic, Ethan. Dramatic. The word echoed. Her father leaned back. So, Ethan, he said, are you still doing consulting? I nodded. Yes. For who? He pressed. I smiled faintly. Various firms. Daniel chuckled. Sounds vague. Another laugh. Louder this time. I felt the old familiar pressure. The one that used to make me shrink, apologize, explain myself. The one Lara had trained into me over years. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt something else. Clarity. 3 months earlier, Laura had called me crying. "I just need space," she said. "You're a good man. Just not enough for me." I'd let her go. No shouting. No scenes. She thought that meant weakness. Back in the restaurant, her mother leaned forward. "You know, Ethan, ambition matters in marriage. Security matters." I nodded slowly. "You're absolutely right," I said. Daniel raised his glass toward me. "No hard feelings, right?" I lifted mine at last. Just slightly. No hard feelings. Only consequences. The final blow came casually. Laura brushed an imaginary crumb from Daniel's jacket. "He's actually up for a promotion," she said. "Big raise. Big future." She looked at me directly. "Things finally feel stable." That was the word. Stable. As if I had been chaos. I set my glass down carefully. The clink echoed louder than it should have. I reached into my jacket pocket and felt my phone. Solid. Familiar. Now, I didn't stand. Didn't raise my voice. I simply sent one text. "Ethan. Is Daniel Reeves still scheduled for review tomorrow?" Reply: "Yes. 9 a.m. boardroom A." I slipped the phone back into my pocket. Laura was still smiling. Daniel was still relaxed. No one noticed the shift. No one ever does at this stage. I looked around the table one last time, at the smirks, the comfort, the certainty. Then I met Lara's eyes, and smiled. Not weakly, not politely, cold, controlled. Final. 6 months of preparation, I thought. And you chose tonight. 6 months before that dinner. While everyone around me was busy mistaking silence for weakness, I was building something most people never see until it's too late. I never corrected their assumptions. I never defended myself. I learned early that people reveal more when they think you're beneath them. I was a consultant, yes, but not the kind Lara's father imagined when he said the word with polite disgust. I worked in enterprise systems acquisition, the unglamorous layer beneath flashy tech headlines, where companies don't buy apps, they buy infrastructure, workflows, dependencies. Boring to explain at parties. Lucrative beyond belief if you understand leverage. I didn't own Haraway systems the way people imagine ownership. No name on the building. No press releases. I controlled it through a holding structure spread across 3 jurisdictions. Majority voting rights consolidated quietly over 4 years. When Laura and I were still married, I'd leave early in the morning and come back late. Tired, distracted. She thought I was avoiding her. In truth, I was negotiating a hostile takeover while eating cold noodles in a rented office with no signage. I learned how to listen to men who underestimated me. How to let them talk. How to let them laugh. The problem started small. A joke at a family dinner. Lara's sister asking if I was still between opportunities. Her father suggesting I aim lower so I wouldn't disappoint Lara. I absorbed it all. Filed it away. Then came the slow erosion. Missed anniversaries. Side glances at men with louder voices. Phones turned face down. I noticed everything. I just didn't react. When Lara asked for space, I hired a private investigator the same day. Not because I suspected an affair, but because I needed certainty. Certainty is cheaper than doubt in the long run. 2 weeks later, the report landed on my desk. Photos, dates, hotel receipts. Daniel Reeves, Senior Operations Manager at Haraway Systems. That part made me smile. Not because of revenge. Because of symmetry. I didn't confront her. I didn't change my behavior. I let her believe the story she was telling herself. That she'd outgrown me. While she packed boxes, I prepared. Over the next 6 months, I audited everything. Daniel's performance metrics. His expense reports. His private emails routed through a company device he didn't realize was mirrored at the admin level. I learned about the offshore account he used for consulting fees, the supplier kickbacks, the falsified compliance signatures. Nothing dramatic, just enough. The kind of enough that collapses careers quietly and permanently. I mapped Lara's social circle too. Her father's business partner had unresolved tax exposure. Her sister's startup was bleeding investor money while posting curated success online. Everyone had a weakness. People always do. I didn't rush. I let the plan mature. I'd spent the last 6 months preparing for that exact moment, not out of anger, but out of respect for the process. Revenge is sloppy when it's emotional. Precision requires patience. When the dinner invitation came, I accepted immediately. I knew she wanted witnesses. I just didn't think she understood what kind. If you're enjoying this story, understand this: power rarely announces itself. It waits. By the time Lara introduced Daniel as her new boyfriend, every document was already signed, every board member already briefed, every contingency already priced in. Daniel thought he was walking into a celebration. I knew he was walking into a review, and I knew that once the first domino fell, the rest wouldn't need my help. They never do. The moment arrived exactly when I expected it to, not with drama but with silence. Dessert menus had just been placed on the table when Lara's father's phone vibrated. He frowned, glanced at the screen, then excused himself. 30 seconds later, Daniel's phone followed. He didn't look at it right away. He was laughing mid-sentence, telling a story about streamlining operations, when the vibration came again. Longer this time, insistent. I watched his smile fade as he glanced down. Color drained from his face so fast it was almost impressive. He cleared his throat. "Sorry," he said, standing abruptly. "Work thing." I nodded once. Calm. Predictable. He stepped away toward the corridor, already dialing. I could hear fragments of his voice rise in pitch. "What do you mean suspended?" Lara looked confused, then annoyed. "Daniel?" she called. No answer. Her sister leaned over. "What's going on?" I took a sip of water. Slow. Measured. 3 seconds later, my phone buzzed. One message. Done. I set it face down. Daniel returned to the table like someone walking back from a funeral. His hands trembled. "We need to talk," he whispered to Lara. She frowned. "About what?" He swallowed. "Now." That's when her father came back. He didn't sit down. He just stared at me. Hard. "Ethan," he said carefully. "What did you do?" I tilted my head slightly. "I had dinner," I replied. The room shifted. People sense power the way animals sense weather. Lara laughed nervously. "This isn't funny." I finally met her eyes. "I know." Daniel's phone buzzed again. He didn't answer this time. "Haraway Systems is conducting an internal review," I said, conversationally. "Standard procedure. Triggered this morning." Lara's mouth opened, closed. "How do you know that?" I leaned back. "Because I authorized it." Silence hit the table like a dropped plate. Her father's partner whispered, "Authorized." I continued calmly. "Daniel, you're being terminated for cause. Effective immediately. Your severance is void. Legal will contact you regarding compliance violations." Daniel stared at me. You don't have the authority." I smiled. Just a little. "Ido." His knees actually buckled. Lara stood. "Ethan, stop this. This is sick." I looked around the table. Every face frozen. Every ego suddenly naked. "You introduced him," I said. "I assumed you wanted transparency." Her father slammed his hand down. "Who the hell do you think you are?" I took my phone out and placed it on the table. Screen up. Haraway Systems. Board access. His eyes widened. "You sold the shares," I said to him gently. "Years ago. You just didn't realize who bought them." Daniel whispered, "Please." That word tasted like iron in the air. I turned to him. "Your offshore account is already flagged. The supplier you took kickbacks from cooperated this morning." His face collapsed. Lara backed away like she'd touched something hot. "You planned this." I nodded once. 6 months ago. Her sister tried to laugh. "This is insane." Her phone buzzed. She checked it. Froze. "My investors just pulled out," she whispered. I didn't look at her. Misrepresented growth metrics tend to do that. Her father's partner sat down slowly. "The audit," he murmured. "The tax audit." I met his eyes. Voluntary disclosure was an option. You declined. The waiter hovered nearby, uncertain. I waved him off. Daniel dropped into his chair, head in his hands. Lara looked at me like she was seeing a stranger. "You're doing this because I left you." I shook my head.
No.
"I'm doing this because you thought I was nothing." I stood. Chairs scraped. No one spoke. I leaned closer to her, voice low. "You could have left quietly. You wanted a performance." I straightened and looked at the table one last time. Pale faces. Shattered certainty. "Enjoy dessert," I said. "Happy New Year. I hope it's everything you deserve." Then I walked out, calm, unhurried, while behind me lives quietly collapsed under the weight of their own assumptions. The fallout began before the check was even paid. By the next morning, Daniel's company access was fully revoked, his LinkedIn quietly updated to "seeking new opportunities." The kind of phrase that fools no one. Within 48 hours, legal notices followed, first the civil ones, then the regulatory inquiries. Lara called me 12 times in one day. I didn't answer. Divorce papers arrived a week later, expedited, uncontested. Her signature shaky where mine was steady. Her parents stopped returning calls from their circle once the tax investigation became public. Old friends suddenly found reasons to be unavailable. The house she loved but never contributed to was listed quietly, then relisted lower, then sold at a loss. I watched it all from a distance, not with satisfaction, but with the calm acceptance of gravity doing its job. For a brief moment, late at night, alone, I wondered if I'd gone too far. The thought passed quickly. Justice isn't loud. It doesn't gloat. It just corrects imbalance. 3 months later, Daniel pleaded guilty to compliance violations.
No yal.
Just enough to ensure he'd never hold authority again. Lara tried once more to meet me for coffee. I declined. Some chapters don't deserve epilogues. A year later, my life looked nothing like before. I stepped out of the shadows by choice, not necessity. I funded a scholarship quietly, started painting again, something I'd abandoned when life became noise. I met someone new, not at a dinner, not through status, but through stillness. She never asked what I did until months in, and when I told her, she just nodded. That's how I knew. Sometimes people confuse kindness with weakness, silence with insignificance. Let them. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's distance. It's building a life so solid they can't reach it, no matter how loudly they once laughed. If this story resonated with you, remember this. Know your worth, move in silence, and never feel the need to explain your power to those who only respected appearances.